Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Transformation Tuesday morning devotion. I am excited about this conversation. We have actually been on this conversation for now probably a couple weeks, talking about or being in the context of Judges chapter 3. And to me, it has been helping me. It has been giving me insight. It has been showing me some different pieces and some different things within my own life. And I'm hoping and I'm praying that as you have been a part of these conversations, that it's also helping and being a blessing unto you. So we're going to continue in this conversation looking at, again, in Judges chapter 3. Judges chapter 3 is where we're going to be looking at. We're going to just read a few verses of scripture. Bless y'all. Good morning to you, for those that are coming on. So Judges chapter 3, we're going to read really just probably 3 verses of scripture, and then we'll dive into what we've been talking about. So Judges chapter 3, this is what it says. Verse 1, it says, "Now these are the nations which the Lord left to prove Israel by them, even as many of Israel as had not known all the wars of Canaan." We've dealt with this. So for those that have not watched this or have not been a part of this conversation, make sure you go back and you listen. Verse 2, it says, "And only that generation of the children of Israel might know to teach them war, at the least, such as before never knew nothing thereof." Now here's where we've been sitting in. Verses 3, "Namely 5 lords of the Philistines, and all the Canaanites, and the Sidonians, and the Hivites that dwelled in Lebanon, from Mount Hiram unto the entering in of Hamath." Now, what we've been talking about is this context, really trying to get an understanding of why, in this context, why would God leave behind some enemies? And we came with this clear understanding that what he was doing is it was some in this camp of Israel that had never experienced war. So they didn't know how to be able to fight or to defend. But then we also have a clear understanding that the other reason is some of these people had never had an experience with God. So they never had to be able to depend upon God or trust God to be able to do something like the generations before. We've broken down these other Philistines and the Canaanites and why God left them two behind. And today we're looking at the Sidonians. I'm not going to be on too long, but I do want to have a clear understanding of what this is. I believe it's in Judges chapter 13. God is breaking this whole thing down. In chapter 12, you read where the scriptures basically allow us to be able to see how all the enemies that Moses left behind, all the enemies that Moses defeated. Bless you, Dr. Ferguson. Good to see you, sir. All the enemies that Moses defeated. Then we get to see how all these enemies that Joshua, these are generations before, that Joshua was able to defeat. But then in the entry of chapter 13, it makes this statement. It says that the Lord is now talking to Joshua, and he basically says, listen, you're getting a little older now. You're getting a little older, and you're getting a little weaker. But there's still more land that we need to be able to conquer. There's still more land that needs to be taken care of. And then he goes on and start listing all these places and territories that have not been taken over. I'm going somewhere with this morning. What he shared with me even this morning was to let us know the Sidonians were sitting in a place that had not been taken over by the generation before. It had not actually been cleared out by the generation before. And so when God remains or allows these specific enemies, the Sidonians, to be able to stay in the land, he's letting his people understand or have this ability to be able to learn how to fight for the land I gave you. I'm going to say this one more time, because this is what he said to me this morning. I left these enemies here because I need to train you on how to fight for the land I gave you. I already promised you these lands. I've already promised what I'm going to do in your life. But there's things in our lives, even when God promises us things, there are times where we have to fight for what God gave us. Now, I'm not saying we got to make it happen. No, that's not what I'm saying. But there's enemies that's sitting in the thing that God gave us. There's enemies that are remaining in the place where God promised us. There's enemies that's sitting in those places that God is saying, I left them there intentionally because I need you to be able to have the strength and the fortitude and the dependability upon me to be able to defend or fight for what I promised you. Now, what enemies am I specifically talking about? And I'm going to calm myself down because I'm excited, because what that means for me and for you is that there's more to be had. That means there's more things that God has given unto us. That means there's more land that we have to be able to take over. That means that we are not done yet. That means there's more work to be able to get done. And so with this being said, this is really, again, I'm not going to be on too longer, but this is what God was sharing, and what I believe our encouragement is even this morning is understanding this. What enemy is standing in the way of your promise? What enemy is sitting on your land? What enemy is trespassing in the place that you know God has told you to have? What enemy is sitting in the place of your next, of the expansion of who you are? Now, is this enemy fear? Yep, I'm going to hit it. Is this enemy your doubt, not of God, but more so of what you feel like you are able to do? Is your enemy, now this is an enemy, is your enemy that you feel like you have the lack of resources? So that means if you feel that you have the lack of resources, what that means for me is that you're depending upon your own ability to be able to make this happen. This is a part of us depending upon the one that gave us the promise. Now, every single battle that the Israelites would go into and would be victorious in, it was only because they had the strength and the power of God. If you go and look at any war that the Israelites were able to go into and even fight and win, you would see this consistent pattern that the only way that they were able to defeat these enemies is because they had the help of the Lord. They had the help of God. They had the hand of God being able to fight with them. Now I'm saying this for a reason. That means that there are certain things that's in your desk that's trespassing in the place where God has told you to expand to, that it's things in there that need to be fought but need to be defeated. But the only way that they're going to be able to be defeated is that you need the hand of God with you. So this morning, I want you to be able to look and examine our own selves, because here's the thing that I've realized. I've realized that I cannot expand externally until I expand internally. I'm going to say that one more time. I cannot expand externally until I expand internally. That means that there is some things within my own self that I have to defeat and expand beyond my mindset, the way that my perspective. I have to get past my fears. I have to get past my anxieties. I have to get past, do I feel like I am able to do this? All of those insecurities, I have to defeat those enemies within, so then I can be able to expand without. I'm going to say that one more time. For me to be able to expand without, I have to defeat the enemies that's within. So within me is some Sidonians, just like without me or externally, there is some Sidonians. There's some enemies that is trespassing on the place that I'm supposed to walk in. There's some places that I'm supposed to expand in that I cannot expand in only because of my fears, only because of I feel like I'm not good enough, only because I feel like I don't have the resources to make it happen, only because I feel like I don't have the connections to make it happen, only because I feel like the people will not show, only because these are enemies that is sitting in your land that God is saying, I'm telling you, that's the place I'm telling you to go. That's where I'm telling you to expand. But what are they going to feel, and how are they going to say, and what would happen then, and what would happen if I make this do and move, and what if this it's like all of these things are Sidonians, enemies that is sitting in our promised land, that is sitting in the place that God is saying, I'm telling you, there's more land to take over. There's more territory for us to walk into. Now, I want to say this, and I am done, but I want to say this, is sometimes we limit our land only by the intelligence or the strength that we have in our current moment. I'm going to say it one more time. Sometimes we limit our land, the expansion that he's telling us by the intelligence, by the knowledge that we have at this present time. But do you understand that the one that created and set this whole thing up and designed everything for us is saying unto us that there are territories that will expand you. That means you will have to learn. That means you are going to have to fight inside your own self. That means you are going to have to develop and grow for the places and the areas and the things that I'm telling you to do. So be encouraged, be excited, because that means we have more work to do. Y'all have a great day today, and thank you again for being on Transformation Tuesday morning devotion. Be blessed, and I'll talk with y'all next time. Bye-bye.